Hi you guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Madison, and if not, welcome back. Today I'm going to be doing an informational video on the role of vacation planning as a college program participant. I know that when I was applying to the DCP and looking into all the roles, there's very little information out there on the vacation planning role. It's a very small role and it's very selective, so not a lot of people do it, and I guess the people that have just haven't put out any information about it. So other than knowing someone that does it, I know it's very, very difficult to find information online about what the vacation planning role really entails. So I'm hoping this video will clarify everything for people that are either looking to apply or have applied and been accepted for the role and have yet to start doing the role, have yet to move to Walt Disney World. It is really exciting. I loved being a vacation planner more than anything. I think I'm so lucky to have gotten that role, and it really did make my college program experience a lot better than it could have been. However, it is a role that's very different from any of the other college program roles. So it's not as necessarily fast-paced as quick service or merchandise or things like that. And in some ways, it's not as magical as those roles either. So there's a lot to consider when applying and deciding whether that's something that's going to suit you. So for starters, the vacation planning role for the Disney College program is very selective, like I said. There are only 4 parks that you can work at, and that will be Magic Kingdom, Epcot, Disney's Hollywood Studios, and Disney's Animal Kingdom. And if each of those parks chooses about 20 college program participants, you're really only looking at 80 to 100 people that are going to be selected for this role. So thousands of people apply to the Disney College program, a couple thousand are selected to do it, and even among that couple thousand, you're still looking at less than 100 people that are going to be chosen to do vacation planning. So if it's something you really want and aren't selected for, don't be upset. It's not necessarily reflective of you and your quality as an applicant. It might just be that there just aren't enough roles for everyone that wants to do it. I talked about vacation planning on my phone interview, so I did say it was something I would like to do. I emphasized that I had been to Walt Disney World a lot of times before and that I knew a lot about it, and I think that's something that helped me get the job. I think if you don't know anything about Disney, it will be a lot harder to do the role. And there are people that do the college program that this is their first time going to Walt Disney World. For those people, vacation planning is probably not going to be the best role. So the job of the vacation planner is to sell tickets, and that's something that I'll get into in a moment, but I want to talk about hours and finances first, because I know that's something a lot of people consider when picking what roles they're going to apply for. Vacation planners have very different hours than typical CPs. So obviously you don't stay past park close, you don't even stay to park close. So if you're a vacation planner, you're almost guaranteed to have early evenings, but you're also almost guaranteed to have early mornings because most shifts start about an hour to an hour and a half before the park opens. Obviously people are getting there early and wanting to buy tickets, so somebody needs to be there for that. There are 2 types of shifts. So the majority of people work the morning shift, and that is about an hour to an hour and a half before park opening, like I said. So that's somewhere between 6:30 and 7 would be when your shift starts, and then you work until about 2 or 3 in the afternoon. And then the evening shift would start sometime around 2, and then they'd be done about an hour before the park closes. So for our evening shifts, they usually ran from 2 to 8:30. So Epcot closes at 9 o'clock every single night without fail. There's no fluctuation there. We would have stopped selling tickets at 8 p.m. and then you would have had half an hour to finish up closing up processes and cashing up. So you can probably tell the majority of shifts are only 6 hours or 7 if you're lucky. And on my CP, I only worked 5 days a week. I was regularly scheduled 5 days, which got me to my 30 hours, but it was rare that I was scheduled 6 days, and it was rare that I ever had a shift that was more than 6 hours. At most, you'd have 7, but there aren't even the option to have 12 and 14-hour shifts like some other CPs are doing. So you're definitely not working the same type of hours that other CPs are. You're not staying up until 4 in the morning like my roommates were. You're not working 14-hour days on your feet. It's a lot easier, But this is something to consider if you're going into the Disney College program and you have a lot of bills to pay and you're looking for this as a way to sort of make money. For me, I wasn't. I just needed enough money to live and to have fun, but I didn't have any student loans, car payments, health insurance, phone bills, or anything like that to pay off. But I know some people go into the program and they do need those things paid off. So it's probably not the role that you want to do. As much as working 14-hour days, 7 days a week is not necessarily the most fun, that might be what you want to look into, because working 30 hours a week would only give me about $100 and change in each paycheck after housing was taken out. So that was my fun money. I was still an undergrad and my parents were paying for my groceries and my bills, thankfully. But yeah, I know not everybody is in that fortunate of a position. And so if you're not, it's definitely something to think about if you're looking into applying for this role. You could pick up an extra shift, but since there weren't longer shifts, the only way to pick up more hours would be to cut into your weekend time. So if you're okay having no weekend time and working 7 days a week, then that's something you could do as long as it didn't put you into overtime. Sometimes I would pick up a sixth shift, so I'd have 1 day of a weekend and then I'd work 6 days a week, and that would give me about 36, 37 hours in a week. But you know, a lot of people that do the DCP want to have weekends, they want to go to the parks and play, so it's not necessarily the most exciting thing to be able to pick up another shift for another day, whereas a lot of my friends were able to take a 6-hour shift and instead trade it for like a 12-hour one, and they'd get more hours in that day and they'd still maintain their weekends. As I mentioned, I've worked at Epcot during my CP, and the year that I worked there, we were super overstaffed. They hired way too many people, thinking that food and wine was going to be such a big deal. And on Saturdays of food and wine, we did need the full staff, but during the week, we didn't necessarily need everyone we had. So I think that's why the hours for us were so low. This is obviously something that will change from park to park, and this is something that will change from year to year. So Magic Kingdom hours might be drastically different than those at Epcot or Animal Kingdom or something like that. So there's 2 roles that you can sort of do as a vacation planner. Obviously, the big one is vacation planning, and that's what everyone does, but some people are also trained in park greeting. So the park greeters are the people that are responsible for keeping the queues moving. At Epcot, you walk in through security, and there's the entrance where you can see the ball, and then there's booths that go all the way down. And a lot of people tend to bunch up at the closest booths to the center, but there's people staffed in the booths that go all the way down to the end. So the park greeter's responsibility is to say, hey guys, there's a window open down there. Feel free to go there if you don't want to wait in the queue for a couple of minutes. And it's just a way to keep the queue moving and keep everybody happy. The park greeters are also responsible for answering questions. So a lot of people will have questions before they even get into the queue because they don't know if this is where they're supposed to be. Many people get confused between vacation planning and guest relations, so you sort of want to sniff that out first. A lot of people will come holding paperwork, so the park greeters can take a look and say, yep, you're in the right line, continue to stand here, or no, you actually have to head on down to guest relations for this. And it's really good to have them because it's a bad look to let someone wait in a queue for 15 minutes and then say, I actually can't help you here, you have to go somewhere else. So the park greeters are responsible for trying to weed out those people and get them to the right place. And also just answer any questions that anyone has. Some people show up and they say, hey, is this Hollywood Studios? No, it's not. Go get on a bus and go somewhere else. Just answering questions so that people don't have to wait in the queue for something that they didn't actually need to wait in a queue for. This job does require you to be on your feet all day. You're not sitting in the air conditioning, you're standing outside, and very few CPs actually get to do it. I was trained as a park greeter because there was no room for me during the training. The training programs can only take 10 people at a time, and the intake for the week that I started the college program was 12. So 2 of us had nothing to do. That was 1 person at Hollywood Studios and myself. And obviously we had to work, they had to give us something to do. So they trained us in park greeting while we waited for the next training session to start. If you aren't trained in park greeting, then you can't pick up that kind of shift. So it is something that's really good to do. And you could probably ask your coordinators or your managers if that's something that they'd allow you to do if it's not on your schedule when you start your CP. But for me, it was really nice because if I did need more hours, I could pick up either. And I was the only CP out of all the CPs in my department that were trained. Most of the park greeters are sort of full-time retirees that just like to greet people in front of the parks. They're some of the nicest people you'll ever meet. But it's not a huge job. They only need 1 or 2 people each day. So I was really lucky that I was able to pick up those shifts, but not everybody is. with regard to training, the training process for vacation planners is a lot longer than the training process for most CPs. Most CPs have 5 days of on-the-job training where they're followed by a trainer, they're taught how to do everything on the job, and then they have their sort of assessment on the last day and then get to work independently. But vacation planners get 10 days of training. These are paid, so it's not anything to worry about. It's just that there's a little bit more information to learn than, say, my roommate who worked at the cone shop and just had to learn ice cream flavors and menu options and stuff like that. So the first 5 days of training are held at Disney University for something that is called core training, and this brings together all of the vacation planners that are in training from all 4 parks, so you get to meet people from different areas. The core training course is meant to teach you about the computer systems, all of the ticket options and pricing, and how to sell tickets to guests. So there is so much information that vacation planners need to know, because the ticket pricing and options are far more than just a one-day ticket is $100. There's multi-day tickets, there's tickets that include water parks, there's annual passes, there's Florida resident discounts, there's all kinds of different things that go on, and most people just know nothing about them. So it's the vacation planner's job to sort of help people figure out what tickets they need, and that's something I'll talk about a little bit later, but the core training requires you to learn all of these things so that you can help anyone that comes up with any of these circumstances. So after you do 5 days at Disney University, then you have 5 days of on-the-job training, just like any other CP or any other trainee at the Walt Disney World Company. So you have your trainer with you for 5 days and you just do sales. On the first and second day, you might watch them do sales and you just sit around, and then on the third and fourth day, you'll start doing them yourself and they'll watch you and they'll help you. You obviously have your Earning My Ears badge on, so people know that you're not necessarily 100% yet, and hopefully they're more patient with you because it is something that takes a lot of learning. And then after 5 days, your trainer will decide whether you've passed your assessment and get to move on to selling independently, or if you need a couple more days of help. So now I want to talk about the actual role and what it entails. What do vacation planners do? They do a couple things. One is they sell tickets. So this could be for one-day tickets for people that haven't planned in advance and just show up to the gate, or this could be selling annual passes for people that have questions and didn't want to buy them online. Vacation planners also upgrade tickets. So these might be for people that bought 4-day passes and want to turn them into an annual pass. This might be for a family that bought a 3-day base ticket but want to add the park hopper option. This might be someone that bought 4 days but they decide, hey, we want to stay 2 days extra, we want 6 days. So they do things like that, all kinds of upgrading and bridging going on. And they also activate tickets. So Florida residents that purchase their tickets online have to activate them at the windows because they have to show proof of Florida residency. So they do that. They activate tickets that are purchased in the UK for the UK 7, 14, and 21 day packages. And they activate tickets that are purchased online and specified to be picked up at will call. So as a vacation planner, you are trained very thoroughly in helping people decide what ticket options they need, because most people actually don't know what they need. The job of the vacation planner is not to upsell. Disney is not training us to try and get you to buy more days than you actually need, but they're training you to have an eye for people that are accidentally going to spend more money than they should be. So a lot of people think, yeah, I'll buy a 1-day ticket every day when I show up to the parks, and I'm going for 4 days. I'll go to all 4 parks in the morning and I'll buy my 1-day ticket. The job of a vacation planner is to sort of talk to them on their first day, see what their plans are, and then when you catch that, tell them, actually, it's cheaper to buy a 4-day ticket as one package because the price goes down each day than going and buying one every day. If the buyer makes it to the 4th day and has been buying a 1-day ticket each day, the vacation planners are obviously doing something very wrong. As a vacation planner, you do deal with huge monetary transactions. So in some circumstances, you might have a couple $1,000s in cash from one transaction of a couple annual passes. This has happened to me on more than one occasion. But if you're looking into doing the role, it's really something you need to consider. You don't need to be an absolute genius, but you need to be all right with money, maybe have had some experience handling money before, and be somewhat mathsy in case, people have questions about what's a better value, or if something goes wrong with the system. You need to be on your toes and ready to help with these transactions, and you need to be quite responsible. I will say that doing vacation planning isn't the most magical job in the world, and I do think that's important to know before going into the program. For starters, you're not in the parks. You're on the outside of the parks, but you're right in the front. People can see the ball. People can see the Tower of Terror on their way into the park. They want to get to you as quickly as possible, do the transaction, and get into the park. So the guests that you're interacting with aren't always super keen to stop and chat to you. Most of the people that are going to the windows aren't actually Disney regulars, so they don't know how nice it is sometimes to stop and talk to cast members like people that go regularly do. The people that come to you are usually confused. There's usually either something wrong with their ticket or just they don't know what kind of ticket they need, but they want to buy it and get in as quick as possible. You, to them, are not necessarily Disney. Disney is inside the gates. You're also asking people for a lot of money, and they're not always prepared for this. Some people see online tickets starting from $99 and they assume, great, we'll go and we'll get 4 tickets and that'll be $400 and that's perfect. But that is without tax for a child in the lowest price season. And then they're surprised when suddenly tickets are $130. And then they're mad at you for that because you're the one that's there, they see you and they decide, you've done this to me, you're making me pay more, and they're not thinking about the fact that they have not read the terms and conditions online when they saw that tickets were starting from $99. The people that are the most prepared Disney goers don't come to the vacation planning windows. They've bought their tickets online, they've done everything they need to do. They're just ready to go in with their magic bands. The people that you're dealing with are the people that are unprepared. They don't know what they need. They're surprised by all the charges. They've just shown up and said, we're coming to Disney, help us, what do we do? So they're not always grateful for you and they're not always happy with you. Sometimes they don't want to pay full price. Sometimes they're willing to stand there and harass you for some type of discount, which you have literally no control over. There's no place in the system that we can just pop in a discount because we like you. We don't give free tickets as magic moments. So in that regard, people are usually not happy with you if they expected one thing and are finding out that they have to pay something different. When I was working at Epcot during the food and wine weekends, it would get so crowded that people that didn't book their tickets already would have to wait in line for up to an hour at points just to buy their tickets to go in. So by the time they get up to your window, they are already angry that they've had to wait an hour to get in. They're always Florida residents because they've come from, somewhere local and they just want to spend a nice day at Epcot for the Food and Wine Festival. And then they're all kinds of mad that there's no one-day Florida resident ticket. Again, these are the people that haven't prepared. Also, your main interactions are with adults and not children. You are dealing with finances, credit cards, cash. You're not selling tickets to a 4-year-old. I'm not even sure that's ethically acceptable. But the kids can't even see over the little booth. So most of the time you're not talking to them at all. They might be asleep in the stroller. They might be hanging out back at Joffrey's with dad while mom comes up and buys tickets or something like that. But a lot of people go to Disney thinking, I love kids, I want to work with kids, I want to see all these cute little princes and princesses, and vacation planners just aren't doing that. As a park greeter, I was really lucky that I was given an autograph book and I was allowed to ask small princes and princesses for their autographs on their way into the park. But if you're in the booths, realistically, you're interacting with adults only. And finally, there's very few magic moments to be made as a vacation planner. I did hint at this before, but we don't give away free tickets. That would be silly of Disney, but we don't really give away free anything. We have the free buttons, but I think those have become so popular that people almost expect them now, and it's not necessarily a magic moment. In some circumstances, we can give you a fast pass, but that's usually for guest recovery. So if we've messed something up on our end, if we couldn't find your tickets, if we charged you the wrong price and have to refund you and we cost you your time, then we can give you a fast pass. But that guest recovery system is very strict. It's not like we have little paper fast passes that we can just hand out on a whim. We have to get them approved and we have to explain why we're giving someone a fast pass. Just like anyone else, we can't give fast passes for Frozen, Pandora, Toy Story, anything like that. So it's very rare that you would get a free fast pass from a vacation planner. It's really only if they've done something that costs you your time. So yes, there are some negatives to the role, and there are going to be negatives with every role. You're sitting inside in air conditioning, and I think that's better than doing half of the other things that people do. The people that do outdoor vending are standing outside in the sun for 14 hours, and I just can't imagine how they get along with that. But I do think vacation planning was the absolute perfect role for me, and I had such a blast doing it. One of my big recommendations if you are going into your college program as a vacation planner is to make friends with your coworkers. Everybody goes into the CP thinking, I'm gonna be best friends with my roommates, we're gonna hang out all the time, and sometimes that happens and sometimes that doesn't. Sometimes you don't get along. Sometimes, if you're like me, your roommates are fine, but they work completely different hours as you. So The people that are working the same weird hours that you are your other vacation planning friends. Since most of the regular CPs are working 14-hour shifts late into the night and you're getting off at 8 p.m. at the latest, the best people that you want to be friends are your coworkers because they'll also be off. The vacation planners are always going to be around at night because none of the parks are open so late that they're going to be at work until 9 in the morning. And in most cases, the vacation planners are all going to be off after 3 p.m. So you guys can go to the parks together and hang out. Some of my absolute best friends from my program are people that I worked with. And it's also really easy to get to know your coworkers at work. You sit in little booths of 2 people, and if you're all the way down at the end where people don't tend to come to, there's a lot of downtime. So you get to chat, you get to know each other, ask questions, talk about your lives. So you definitely have to be a somewhat social person. There were people that I worked with that would just sit there and wait for guests to come, and they were not my favorite people that I worked with. My favorite people that I worked with were people that I got to talk with, to be silly with, to make memories with. Even if we were working, we were still having a great time. So that's everything about vacation planning. If you have any more questions whatsoever, please don't hesitate to just drop them in the comments below, because I love helping people decide whether this is the right role for them, because it's something that I think was so special and was such a big part of my college program experience. And don't forget, if you haven't yet, please do like and subscribe to my channel. It does mean so much to me. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you real soon.